Milwaukee baseball fans, first pitch is coming up soon, and it's time to get you ready for the game.
Sal Frelick, swinging a drive and out of here.
Welcome to the Baseball Pregame Show, presented by Import Minded, your trusted choice for exceptional vehicle care on South 27th, just north of 894. Tonight, Milwaukee hosts Tampa Bay.
Yelly delivers in the clutch.
We'll preview tonight's matchup on the mound.
Just want to go out there and compete, and just really lucky to be here, and just honestly glad I'm here, and just want to help these guys in any way possible, and I'm just pumped.
Thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, we got a good lineup. We got guys who are going to get on base, steal bases, play good defense.
And all of the storylines heading into tonight's game.
This is kind of what we want to create here, is that we're never out of a game. We know we're only a couple pitches away, no matter what the score.
So let's get to it.
I mean, we have the best fans in the world.
Here's your host, Hunter Baumgardt.
Oh, it's 70 degrees in Milwaukee, and baseball is back. Game 4 of the 2026 season upon us for the Milwaukee Brewers. They take on the Tampa Bay Rays at American Family Field at 6:40 this evening. Welcome in. Excited to be with you again for another year of the Baseball Pregame Show as we get you set for Brewers and Rays over the next hour. We are going to dig into what Pat Murphy had to say before the game. We'll also dig into Kyle Harrison as he makes his Brewers debut tonight. We will also get into a conversation I had with Joey Ortiz just a bit ago in the Brewers clubhouse. All of that and much, much more to come as the Brewers take on the Tampa Bay Rays at American Family Field tonight. Kyle Harrison, as mentioned, on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers. Nick Martinez on the mound for the Tampa Bay Rays. You may think, oh, that name sounds kind of familiar. Well, he was with the Cincinnati Reds the last 2 seasons, pitched to a 4.45 ERA in 40 games a year ago. So a familiar foe on the mound tonight for the Tampa Bay Rays. Another interleague series begins after the Brewers sweep away the Chicago White Sox. 3-0 to start the season. Tampa Bay is 1-2. They lost the series to the St. Louis Cardinals over the weekend. So excited to be back and excited to do this show with you an hour before weeknight games, and that is going to be throughout this 2026 season. And also, don't forget Thursday evenings. I'll be with you as well, as we are going to do Milwaukee baseball tonight, and that will be Thursdays from 6 until 7 right here on Fox Sports 920, and this show presented by Import Minded all season long. So excited to be with you, excited to get into it. The Brewers are 3-0, and in a moment, we're going to look back at yesterday's game. So a part of each and every pregame show, here's how it's going to lay out a little bit. I'm going to give you the lineup right away because I want you to know the starting lineup, kind of think about it as we go throughout the show. I'll give you the lineup at the end too, in case you miss it in the beginning. Right? Give it to you a couple times. We'll also dig into the starting pitching of each team, each and every show. We will also hear from Brewers manager Pat Murphy. I was down at American Family Field talking to Brewers manager Pat Murphy, talking to guys in the clubhouse. Had a chance to catch up with Jake Woodford, the new bullpen arm, who had a key outing in yesterday's win for the Brewers. We'll hear from him in a little while. And as mentioned, I had a chance to catch up with Joey Ortiz as well. So those conversations coming up. So you're going to hear from players. You're going to hear from manager Pat Murphy. You're going to get to know the news of the day as well, because, boy, for just the first 5 days of the season, the Brewers have made a lot of news. First, it was Churio going to the IL. Then it was Andrew Vaughn going to the IL on Saturday. Then today, as I'm walking into the ballpark, the Brewers make a trade. They acquire Luis Matos from the San Francisco Giants in exchange for cash. He's an outfielder. Why? We'll tell you in a little while. Also, are the Brewers extending one of their young players? It definitely seems like that is indeed the case. Multiple reports saying that the Brewers are signing shortstop prospect Cooper Pratt to a long-term deal. And this is interesting because a lot of us might have thought that maybe Jesus Madej would be the next long-term extension the Brewers would do. But it's an 8-year, $51 million contract that infield prospect Cooper Pratt is signing with the Milwaukee Brewers, and that's according to all the big names when it comes to baseball reporting. Ken Rosenthal, Joel Sherman, John Heyman as well. It's 8 years plus 2 club options. Pratt is 21 years old, and he's a top prospect in the organization. He had not played above Double-A until this year, but the Brewers are signing him to an 8-year, $51 million deal. We're going to hear Pat Murphy talking about Pratt. Can't comment on the extension because it's not official yet. It hasn't been announced by the Brewers. That means the management, Pat Murphy, Matt Arnold, cannot talk about it yet. But he did talk about Cooper Pratt specifically, the player, what he wants to see him improve on, those sorts of things. We'll get to that here in a little while. Want to hear from you as well on the NicolaLaw.com talking text line 877-794-1973. All right, so let's get you the lineups before we go any further here this afternoon or this evening. It's just so beautiful out. I tell you, hopefully you are enjoying the day because it is absolutely beautiful. 70 degrees. The roof was open when I was at the ballpark. Not sure if it'll be open for first pitch. It would be awesome if it would be. I know it's going to probably drop to mid 60s, 8 o'clock, maybe low 60s by the end of the game. I don't know. Feels good. Feels good out there to me. Hopefully you're enjoying it because at least in the Milwaukee area, we're getting a lot of rain, looks like the rest of the week. All right, let's get you the starting lineups for tonight's ball game. And we'll start with the Tampa Bay Rays, and they are managed by Kevin Cash. He is the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. They're 1-2 on this young season, dropped a series in St. Louis, as mentioned, over the weekend. Their batting order looks like this. To lead things off, their designated hitter, Yandy Diaz. Batting second in right field, Ryan Vilade. Batting third and at first base, Jonathan Aranda. Batting cleanup, pretty much their star of their lineup, third baseman Junior Cabanero. Batting fifth and at second base, Ben Williamson. Batting sixth and in center field, Johnny DeLuca. Batting seventh and behind the plate, Nick Fortes. Batting eighth and in left field, Chandler Simpson. And batting ninth and at shortstop, Carson Williams. So for the Rays, Diaz, Vilade, Aranda, Caminero, Williamson, DeLuca, Fortes, Simpson, and Williams. Now for the Milwaukee Brewers, how will they be lining up against the Tampa Bay Rays here tonight? Let's start with their leadoff hitter at second base, Bryce Terang. Batting second behind the plate, William Contreras. Batting third, the hero of yesterday. We'll hear his home run one more time coming up in just a moment. Designated hitter Christian Yelich bats third for the Brewers tonight. Cleanup spot tonight. Third baseman Luis Rengifo. Batting fifth and at first base is Jake Bauers. Batting sixth in right field, Sal Frelick. Batting seventh in center field, Garrett Mitchell. Batting eighth and at shortstop, David Hamilton. He gets his first Brewers start at shortstop. And batting ninth in left field, Brandon Lockridge. So once again, your starting lineup for the Brewers tonight, Terang, Contreras, Yelich, Rengifo, Bauers, Frelick, Mitchell, Hamilton, and Lockridge. Those are your starting nine for the Milwaukee Brewers. What's of note in that starting nine? Well, Rengifo's your cleanup hitter. How about that? Also, of course, Jake Bauers in there, Frelick in there, Mitchell in there, Hamilton at shortstop. Can make note of that. And also Brandon Lockridge is in left field tonight. So those are your starting lineups. Once again, Nick Martinez on the mound, a right-hander on the mound for the Tampa Bay Rays here tonight. All right, before we go any further, I want to recap the wild day that was at American Family Field on Sunday afternoon. Yesterday felt like 2 days put into one because this game did not start how the Brewers envisioned. Brandon Sproat making his Brewers debut, making just his fifth major league start, acquired from the Mets in the Freddie Peralta deal, and with Jefferson Carroll making his major league debut behind the plate as well. Things didn't start too hot for Sproat. 2 walks and a single later, Colson Montgomery stepped to the plate.
Rips this one to right center field. Back it goes! Get out! Colson Montgomery with a grand slam. As all the Sox fans in attendance giving each other high fives, it's the Sox with an early 4-0 lead.
Highlight courtesy of Chicago Sports Network. So the first 4 batters for the White Sox had scored, and that is when Brewers manager Pat Murphy made a rare mound visit where he doesn't make a pitching change. It's rare that Pat Murphy goes out there and doesn't make a pitching change. Well, This was the case yesterday afternoon. What was the message? I asked Brandon Sproat after the game.
Yeah, I saw him coming out, and I was like, hey, you know, let's just see what he has to say and take it as it is. But the message he gave was really reassuring. He's like, hey, man, you know, obviously this isn't how you want to start it. So, but he said, let's get back to it. You know, let's pitch for the name on the front of your jersey. And that was definitely nice to hear. And so, okay, you know, hey, you know, I've got guys behind me that, you know, are busting their tail every single day. You know, waiting to make plays. So I'm like, you know, let's try the best we can. Just you know, get the ball on the ground. Just let them work. So.
How about that? Pat Murphy just has such a feel for the best ways to impact his young players. And he did, because Sproat retired 3 of the next 4 hitters to end the inning. Then at the bottom of the first inning, the Brewers told the White Sox that today's win, if they were going to get it, was not going to come easy. William Contreras roped a double to left field and advanced to third base on a pass ball. Rengifo then lined out, but Gary Sanchez made sure the Brewers were on the board in the first inning.
This one driven to left. It's back, and he cuts the deficit in half. One swing, and it's 4-2.
Gary Sanchez saying not so fast. You got plenty of time to get back into this one, and he just did it.
Highlight courtesy of Brewers TV. The top of the second inning was better than the first inning for Sproat, but not perfect. A thorn in the side of Milwaukee all weekend. Munetaka Murakami did it again.
Murakami back in right field. It goes at the wall. It gets out. Oh, my goodness. He did it again.
3 homers in 3 games. He's on pace for 162 homers in 162 games. We'll see if it happens. That made it 5-2. They would tack on one more when Montgomery drove in Miguel Vargas. So at the end of 2 innings, it was 6-2 White Sox. The third inning was the last for Sproat, but the White Sox got him one more time before he exited.
This is Pereira. Gets this one high in the air. Deep to left center. It is gone! Everson Pereira. We knew the power was there. His first home run of the season.
So at this point, the Brewers faced their largest deficit of the game at 7-2. They were down 5 runs. The teams remained scoreless all the way to the bottom of the 6th inning. So even after the Italian Sausage won its second race of the weekend, the Italian, by the way, got 2 wins, and the Bratwurst got 1 win over the weekend, because I know you wanted to know the updated standings. Anyway, Brandon Lockridge drove in Sal Frelick in the bottom of the 6th inning to make it 7-3. Meanwhile, the bullpen continued to hold the White Sox at 7, and that would prove to be key. Bob Kozlowski crushed God Bless America as usual during the 7th inning stretch, and then a rousing rendition of Roll Out the Barrel and Take Me Out to the Ball Game was sung. After the pomp and circumstance, as Murph would call it, the Brewers were held scoreless in the bottom of the 7th inning. White Sox were held scoreless in the top of the 8th inning, and this set things up for the bottom of the 8th inning and the inning of the year thus far for the crew. Brewers were down 7-3 to start the inning. Joey Ortiz led off the inning with a single. He was 5 for 11 over the weekend. A wild pitch by Chris Murphy allowed him to get to second. Bowers then struck out, but that was followed by Brandon Lockridge, an infield single for Lockridge. Blake Perkins then took a walk to load the bases for Bryce Terang.
Line to left, a base hit. 1 run scores. Lockridge stays put. Station to station. It's 7-4.
There you go. Bryce Terang against lefties has been much better, and that will indeed be the end of the day for Murphy.
With the Brewers now down 3, the White Sox went to their closer, Sir Anthony Dominguez, as Contreras strolled to the plate. But unfortunately, William popped out to third base. Now there were 2 outs, but you got to get 3, especially against the Milwaukee Brewers. Luis Rengifo at the plate, bases loaded, and he delivered.
3 balls, 2 strikes, and 2 outs. And it's a base hit. 1 run's in. 2 runs are in. Terang ends up at third. It is a 1-run game.
Boy, how close was that pitch before? Very close to being strike 3, but it was off the edge, and then he got one he liked. Fastball right down the middle, and able to find the hole in his center field.
7-6 White Sox, and the tide was turning at American Family Field. Pat Murphy decided to pinch hit Christian Yelich for Gary Sanchez. He talked about that decision after the game.
I told him a couple innings before, I said, it looks like it looks like you'll hit for Sanchez against Dominguez. I said maybe two innings before. I think I told him before the game, Yelly will only hit you in the 8th or the 9th, and it'll most likely be Dominguez. You know, if we were winning, I wasn't going to use him. So I wanted to get him the day. And sure enough, that's how I told him again, yeah, Yelly, it looks like Dominguez in the 8th or the 9th, and it'll be for Gary.
He had that specific spot he wanted to use Yelly in, and that specific spot occurred. It set up the first signature moment of 2026.
Christian Yelich to hit for Gary Sanchez with a tying run aboard at third base. Good vibes, 2-2. Fly ball to deep right! It is way back and down! Yelly delivers in the clutch. It's his first career pinch hit home run, and he left nothing in the tank.
My God, how far did that go? A bomb.
Got a curtain call, and deservedly so.
It was a splitter from Dominguez, and he left it up in the zone, and Yelich tattooed it.
As soon as that ball was hit, I audibly gasped in the press box because you knew that thing was gone from the jump. So did Yelly. He had an epic celebration as he stood in that batter's box for what felt like years. Here is Yelich on his celebration.
Is that a bad flip or a bad drop? What do we call
It was a drop, yeah. It kind of just worked out that way. That's how my follow through was, and Sal was pretty much for me to use, screaming at me from the on deck circle. So, it was a cool moment, and just a really big one for us today.
A bat drop, you bet. Trevor McGill slammed the door in the 9th inning, including a 4-pitch strikeout of Murakami. And the Brewers completed the epic comeback in the sweep of the White Sox, winning it 9-7. They are 3-0 for the 10th time in franchise history. And they'll try to make it 4-0 coming up here at 6:40. We're about a little less than an hour away from first pitch. It's the baseball pregame show here on Fox Sports 920, getting you set for Brewers and Rays. Kyle Harrison on the mound for Milwaukee tonight. Nick Martinez on the mound for Tampa tonight. I'll tell you, there were a lot of exciting moments of 2025. You think back to last season, 97 wins. Getting to the NLCS, of course, probably the one that tops them all is winning Game 5 over the Cubs at American Family Field on October 11th. However, I think one of the questions that I had coming into this season, and really, basically because you cannot expect necessarily 97 wins again. It was really hard. They went on a couple of double-digit winning streaks. They went 30-4 during a stretch, right? That was kind of ridiculous, and that's going to be hard to replicate. However, maybe they start a lot better than they did last year, and maybe that can all add up to 97. Who knows? But it's hard to win 97 wins back-to-back seasons, okay? Just hard to do in Major League Baseball. However, I'm one, and I still am, wondering a little bit, is that magic, is that comeback crew, is that just innate ability to stay in a ball game, make things happen, clutch hitting, is that all going to carry over again to 2026? Well, so far it has. And it's only through 3 games, and I get it. And against the White Sox, a team not expected to do very much at all. I get all that. However, yesterday's game reminded me a lot of 2025, and we remember how special 2025 was. So something to keep in mind there as we go throughout the 2026 season. And maybe, just maybe, we'll have as many moments. It's going to be hard to top all the moments that happened last year, but it's off to a good start because you have a signature moment already in the first series of the season. All right. I am going to couple of things. When we come back, we are going to get into the trade that happened, because why'd the Brewers make a trade 3 games into the season? Well, it has to do with Chourio and Vaughn being on the injured list. And I know you're like, Hunter, Vaughn's a first baseman. Why are they trading for an outfielder? It all kind of runs together. Pat Murphy likes to call it the soup and the ingredients. We'll talk about the trade that they made, the acquisition of Luis Matos, coming up next. You're listening and watching. Hey, by the way, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Just search Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. We are live there. We're live, of course, 9:20 a.m. in Milwaukee, and worldwide on that iHeart Radio app. We will be right back. This is the Baseball Pregame Show. I'm Hunter Baumgardt. It's presented by Import Minded right here on Fox Sports 920.
Milwaukee fans, we're getting you ready for the game. This is the Baseball Pregame Show with Hunter Baumgardt, presented by Import Minded, your trusted choice for exceptional vehicle care on South 27th, just north of 894.
Welcome back. It is the Baseball Pregame Show. Excited to get you set for Brewers and Rays. We'll have another pregame show coming up tomorrow from 5:30 until 6:30, getting you set for Brewers and Rays again every weeknight game. I'll bring you this show 1 hour before first pitch, and every Thursday from 6 to 7, we'll do Milwaukee baseball tonight and just talk about the Brewers. So that's what's fun about it. We just get to talk Brewers and look ahead to tonight's game. By the way, Friday, we will not have a show due to the Milwaukee Admirals. That is, if we have the Admirals or the Badgers, they will preempt this show, and rightfully so. Admirals in the playoff hunt, Badgers hockey to the Frozen Four. So make sure to, if you're tuning in, I'll keep you posted. Just follow me on socials, and I'll keep you posted at Hunter B on air. That's at Hunter B on air. And want to hear from you on the NicolaLaw.com talk and text line at 877-794-1973. Just heard from Rhonda in the 715 talking about, has a question about Jesus Madej, and we're going to get to that in a bit because we're also going to get to that Cooper Pratt story here in a moment as well. But I want to first get to the trade that was made today because it's an interesting one. The Brewers acquired Luis Matos from the Giants in exchange for cash. So all they sent was cash. That's because Matos was designated for assignment in San Francisco. So it was a simple deal. They were looking to get rid of him. Brewers wanted a right-handed bat. They got it. Why was Matos acquired? Well, here is how the Brewers' current roster breaks down without Matos. In the outfield, you have Yelich, Mitchell, Frelick, Lockridge, Perkins, and then Bowers as your backup outfielder. Also, obviously, can play first base. At first base right now, you've got Jake Bowers, you got Gary Sanchez, and then you got even Brandon Lockridge, who's kind of the emergency first baseman if need be. That's how the outfield and first base lines up because you're without Andrew Vaughn and because you're without Jackson Chourio. Both of those guys are right-handed batters. So if you look at the outfield, Frelick, Yelich, Mitchell, all lefties. Perkins is a switch hitter, and then Lockridge is your lone righty. So they wanted to add a right-handed bat and a right-handed option to that outfield, or else you're kind of left-handed heavy out there. Then you look at first base, and you've got Bowers, who is probably going to be playing obviously more there at first base without Andrew Vaughn. And then you want a better safety net in the outfield if need be. So here is the question, because who is going to be sent down on the roster, right? Because on the 40-man roster, the move was already made. Sammy Peralta was designated for assignment. He was a pitcher, did not make the major league club. He was designated for assignment. On the 26-man roster, a move will need to be made. The Brewers have not announced that move yet, partly because he is not in Milwaukee yet. So if he was in Milwaukee, they'd make the move. My best guess onto who is going to be the one to be sent down when Matos does arrive in Milwaukee from San Francisco, it's either going to be Blake Perkins or Jefferson Caro, I got to think. Here's a couple reasons why both. One, for Jefferson Caro, right? It's hard to keep three catchers on your roster throughout a season. They rarely use three catchers. In fact, the last time, before yesterday, the last time the Brewers had used three catchers in a game was 2019. The Brewers, obviously, and most teams do not use three catchers in a game. That was an anomaly, much less carry three catchers on the roster. If you remember last season, they did for some time. That was, remember, Eric Haas was on the roster for a while. But it's not necessarily optimal, especially when you're without Chourio and Vaughn right now. So the other argument is, okay, Blake Perkins, does he go down? Because if you're not going to send down Jefferson Caro, you're probably going to send down an outfielder, and that would probably be Blake Perkins because he'd be the odd man out. Lockridge isn't going down. Mitchell's been pretty good to start the season, and obviously Frelick and Yelich are not going anywhere. And then Bowers is going to be needed not only at first base, but maybe in left, but even with Matos probably less so, and with Vaughn hurt probably less so. So you need Bowers over there at first. So to me, it's either Perkins or Carroll. I would guess if I were to say which one, I would say probably Jefferson Carroll, just because it's hard to keep 3 catchers on your 26-man roster. And I don't know if it's necessarily needed right now, but I think the stopgap kind of call-up was needed there for Carroll. And it's unfortunate because he was behind the plate, make your major league debut and might have to go back down. But such is baseball. Pat Murphy saying before the game today that he really liked what Carroll did behind the plate yesterday. And I have a feeling, he could be the catcher of the future. If William Contreras, who has 2 more years, so this year and next year of team control, if they don't sign him to a long-term deal, Jefferson Carroll could be the catcher of the future. So keep that in mind. It was fun to see him yesterday, get that opportunity, get the chance behind the dish. But obviously, they're going to go with Contreras and Sanchez for the most part behind the dish, and Contreras is back there tonight. So, again, Matos, 178 career games over 3 major league seasons. He's hit .231. He's got speed, that's for sure. He played in 57 games last season with San Francisco. He hit 8 homers. He put together a .221 average last year. So this isn't a guy that jumps off the page. However, he's a former top draft pick who the Brewers could possibly make into a better player like they usually do, right? You think of an Isaac Collins last year. You didn't really think much of Isaac Collins in March of last year, right? But look what he did throughout the season. And look, he finished top 5 in Rookie of the Year balloting. So something to keep in mind with Luis Matos coming over from San Francisco. How long will he be in Milwaukee when Chourio comes back? Maybe not super long. Is someone else the odd man out when Chourio comes back? Those are problems for down the road. Right now, the Brewers wanted a better option, or just another option from the right-handed side, and that's what they did. They went out and acquired Luis Matos. Okay, want to get to my conversation with Joey Ortiz. He's not in the lineup tonight, but he started the year 5 for 11. He also has 3 stolen bases to go. He started that inning, the 8th inning, with that single yesterday. It started the rally, and he has been really good over these first 3 games, and his defense has continued to be sensational. We talk a little offense. We talk a little team offense. We talk about his defense, the play, the relay that he got from Lockridge the other night, and his sliding, dazzling play at shortstop yesterday to turn the double play, throwing from his knees. We talk about all of that. Here's my conversation with the Brewers shortstop, Joey Ortiz.
Joey, first of all, 3 games under the belt. I know a lot to go, but how have you felt overall about just the team? Obviously, you like to get 3 wins, but also how you just feeling overall at the plate, in the field, everything so far?
Yeah, everything's going good. To start the season 3-0 against any team is great. It's a good start, but like you said, there's so much season left. Got to keep the momentum rolling.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the offense as a whole and the pressure you guys continue to put on pitchers, we saw it a lot last year. You guys are doing it again right out of the gate this year. How much do you feel and do you sense that pressure on the opponent when you're at the plate or on the bases? You guys are taking extra bases, stealing bases, etc. How does that feel for you on the offensive side of that?
It's good. We like to be aggressive, and we like to, like you say, put pressure on the opponents and to make them make plays and try and get outs wherever. But we like to be a full, offensive unit, base running and hitting, having good at bats, and I feel like we're doing that right now.
Absolutely. You started that 8th inning yesterday with that single, and then obviously everything followed like that. When you guys are going through an inning like that, is it kind of a contagious feeling? And you get crowds behind you. Obviously, a great crowd yesterday and everything like that. I bet it's just kind of a snowball effect at some point.
Yeah, like I said, you just put up quality at bats. Get guys on, make the pitchers have to. Make good pitches, and then when they don't, take advantage of it. And, it's especially, going down early in the game with they had a pretty solid lead, and you just try and get one back at a time and, take everything one bat at a time, one pitch at a time. And, you see what happens when, we do that.
Yeah, and you guys obviously did that a fair amount last year, and that was something that Christian talked about after the game, of how you guys just kind of felt like you could still battle back and just keep that positivity. What do you think leads to that? Is that just the confidence you've done it before? Is that just a belief in the guys around you?
Yeah, it's definitely belief in each other, and I think we just have a lot of fight in us, and we're always going to fight till last out. We always feel like we have an opportunity to make something happen, and we've put up however many runs already this season, 14 runs in a game. Like, we feel like we're never out of it, and like I said, we're going to play till last out and keep going after him.
On the defensive side for you, a couple of, obviously, some plays that stick out to me. One was the relay a couple of nights ago on Saturday night, got from Lockridge. Get it? What's going through your mind as that play's developing, and just is it a lot of instinct, probably somewhat too, but what's kind of going through your mind as that's developing?
Yeah, a lot of it is instinct. I think Bryce does a really good job, especially, being the trail guy behind me there, being vocal and letting me know, like, where the runner's at, because then all I have to do is catch the ball and let it go, because I know, Bryce is yelling at me, letting me know he's going home, and I think that a lot of that plays into those type of plays, especially to be vocal and, as the infielder, as the lead guy, having to turn around and look back and forth and see where the base runner's at could be a little distracting, and, I think Bryce did a great job on that play too, and I could hear him, and, for me it was kind of easy, get the ball, make a good throw, and try and get him out.
I think people think about communication a lot in the outfield, calling a play or something like that, but you guys probably have a lot of communication there in the infield too.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. I mean, just anywhere on the field, you got to communicate. You got to, be aware of what plays are going to happen, before they happen, and I think if you do that, you can be ready for everything.
And that sliding play over on the at short there on Sunday as well, that turned into that double play. Take me through a little bit of that, and kind of a different one, obviously not a relay, but just moving to that side, having to stop and make the throw back.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is I just try and get outs. Like, whether it's routine or it's whatever play, I just try and get outs. I try and keep everything simple, field the ball, throw the ball, hit the guy in the chest. And yeah, I mean, a spectacular play is great, but when I'm getting outs for my pitchers, that's all I care about.
Absolutely. Last thing for you, great atmosphere to start the season here, these 3 games. Looking forward to, I'm sure, the next 3 games at home here.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, I think our fans did every season I've been here has been so good with the fans. They're great, and already the first 3 games in, and they're lively and ready to go, and it definitely helps us out a lot, especially like yesterday. We're down in the game, but the fans are still in it. It fires us up, and see what happens.
Thanks, Joey. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, of course.
There he is, Joey Ortiz. My conversation with him earlier today in the Brewers clubhouse, and he just wants to get outs. That was his big thing. Just wants to get outs, and look, he definitely does that on the defensive side. Pat Murphy, before the game today, was asked about the defense up the middle the Brewers have between Joey Ortiz and Bryce Terang.
The play Joey made yesterday, the play he made 2 days ago, the redirect, and just the time that it takes for him to the ball to touch his leather and get it out and get it somebody else's leather is amazing, that redirect. And then the play he made the other day in the hole, perfect throw, and then Bryce's turn. That's a gift. That's special.
A special and a gift. And I'll tell you that because I asked Joey obviously about those 2 different plays, and it's really his ability to go baseball in the glove, baseball out of the glove, baseball on point to William Contreras on that relay, or baseball in the glove, baseball out of the glove, and on point to Bryce Terang, who can then still have time to turn 2. As Pat Murphy said, it's a gift. All right, another interesting question was asked to Pat Murphy before the game. I want you to hear this. Adam McKelvey of MLB.com asked Brewers manager Pat Murphy, because remember last spring training, there was a lot of talk about would Bryce Terang possibly move to short? Where does Caleb Durbin fit in? Because Durbin was more of a natural second baseman. Obviously, he ended up working out at third. But there's a lot of discussion last year about where Caleb Durbin might play, and would that shift Terang to short, and Joey would stay at third? Because remember, 2 years ago, Joey Ortiz was your third baseman. He then shifted over to shortstop last year. And there's a point in spring training where it was flipped, and Bryce Terang was playing shortstop for a couple of days, and then he had the shoulder, kind of a scratchy shoulder, so to speak, and then that never came up. Adam McKelvey asked Pat Murphy earlier today if he ever thinks about when they thought about flipping them.
You ever think back to that time where you were considering a flip-flop, and maybe this worked out
all the time,
the way it was meant to be?
all the time.
You feel it would have been as good the other way around?
I do. I think it would have been just as good the other way around, but it's more about really Bryce's ability. See, when the ball goes through the right side, runners go from first to third. When it goes through the left side, usually runners only go one base. So that had something to do with it. There's other factors, but yeah, I think we're really lucky. Really lucky with the type of guy we have.
Yeah, they have quite very much so talent up the middle. And I'll tell you too, like, that's interesting that he thinks about it all the time still, right? Like, that could have been left in last year's spring training. That wasn't even this spring training. That was a year ago spring training. That could have been left, and no, I don't really think about it. I don't know. I have a feeling that, man, I mean, you think about, and this kind of ties into then that minor league conversation here on the Baseball Pregame Show on WLKY AM Milwaukee and Fox Sports 920 on the iHeartRadio app and streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Just search Fox Sports Radio Wisconsin. Hunter Baumgardt with you. This goes into the story today of Cooper Pratt is the next young Brewer to sign a long-term deal. According to multiple reports, John Heyman, Bob Nightingale was first, Ken Rosenthal confirmed, Brewers infield prospect Cooper Pratt and the Brewers filing an 8-year, $51 million deal. It includes 2 club options with escalators on option years. He's only played 3 games above AA and just started that this year. This is a Brewers special, just like they did with Jackson Chourio. Now, this is also an 8-year deal, $51 million. This could be, if Pratt becomes, what he could be, the top prospect in the Brewers system, if he becomes what he could be, this could be an absolute bargain for the Milwaukee Brewers. But this is how they have to operate, and it makes a lot of sense for them. Now, it also makes sense for Cooper Pratt, right? Get paid early. You never know what's going to happen in the major leagues. So you don't necessarily, you just bet on you producing for this team and you get paid. It's rare that guys in AA, AAA get paid, but so be it. So that's the interesting part. Now, Pat Murphy talked about Cooper Pratt before the game. He couldn't comment on the extension because it's not official yet. The Brewers haven't announced it. Once it is, we'll hear from Matt Arnold most likely. We'll hear from Pat Murphy. But right now, they're just speaking in vague terms. However, Pat Murphy can comment on the player because he's in the Brewers organization. So Pat Murphy, this is about a minute of him talking about the type of player and the type of person Cooper Pratt is. It sounds like they just signed him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, what's not to like? I mean, aptitude, he's a baseball player. He's a good baseball player. He's got a ways to go. He's got to develop. Great human, worker. Hope I'm around when he gets to the big leagues.
When you say work to do, are you talking offensively? Do you feel defensively he's there?
I don't think you're ever there until you've played in the big leagues. They got to get here and they got to make the adjustment to this game. And the game's much different up here than it is in the minor leagues. To try to describe it as, well, it's much faster up here. That's not just that's an easy way to say it. There's just so much more to it. It's kind of like maturity. You just have to go through it.
What would you like to see him kind of add this year as he works his way through the season?
Well, he's got to take care of AAA. He's got to do really well and kind of be on time in AAA, both defensively and offensively. There's so much to learn in this game when you're early 20s. There's so much to learn.
Yeah, so something to keep in mind there. He's still got a lot to learn, as you heard from Pat Murphy there. But also, this is just an interesting signing because I think a lot of us would have expected this to come out as Jesus Madej getting this signing. And Rhonda on the 715 texting in the show says, I'm curious as to why Jesus Madej isn't more involved in AAA. I thought he did really well in spring training. Is it his age? Heard his name all the time, and now not even a mention as to how he is doing. Yeah, he is. He's in AA. Let me see here. Where is he? Yeah. So here's the thing about Jesus Madej, and I think it ties into the extension process too. Yeah, Madej's still really, really, really young, and Pratt is above him as far as closest to the major league level. So that's where this extension makes sense because he's kind of on that line of could possibly make it to the majors this year. Jackson Churio was kind of in that same line of has a chance, has the big deal. Obviously, if you sign a guy to this contract, you're probably going to get him in the majors sooner rather than later. However, you also want to make sure he develops. Like Murph was saying, he has a lot of learning to do. So he hadn't played above AA until the last few days. So I'm interested to see what he does in AAA, how long the Brewers have him down there. And again, he's played 3 games in AAA, and it's been over the last few days. He played 120 in Biloxi in AA. So he played all season last year, basically in AA. They put him in AAA, and that's, of course, one step away from the major league level. So that makes sense. But I think on the other side of that, you say, Jesus Madej, is he next? I think they'll still probably work with him, and I don't think this puts the extension out of the question. But I think Jesus Madej is still a little bit away and is further away than Cooper Pratt is. And I think this extension shows it. So as much as we're hearing so much about Madej, and he is really good, especially on the offensive side, I think he has some work to do defensively. Maybe the future middle infield could be way, way down the road. You could see Madej there. You could see Pratt there. Right now it's Terang and Ortiz. Do they sign Terang long term? Or when it's Terang's time to get a huge contract, do they say it's Madej's turn? There are going to be a lot of moving parts, but they're really deep up the middle, and I'm interested to see where it all goes. But appreciate it, Rhonda. And I think it's more so it's the age, it's the inexperience, and it's more so too. It's just Madej has to get experience at AA. He has to get experience at AAA as well. Eventually Madej will be in the majors, but for now it's going to be probably a little while for Madej, and then for Pratt, I think it's going to be a little sooner than Madej, and maybe sooner than we anticipated because he just signed an 8-year, $51 million deal with the Brewers, according to reports. But again, this is how the Brewers operate, right? Bet on your young talent. They did it with Churio, the Churio deal. If he continues to soar the way he's been soaring, it's going to look like a really good deal over the next 4, 5, 6 years. Cooper Pratt deal could end up looking the same depending on how good Pratt is. All right. When we come back, we're going to get you the lineup one more time, dig into Kyle Harrison, who is going to be on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers tonight for the very first time. We'll hear from Pat Murphy on Kyle Harrison as well. You're listening to the Baseball Pregame Show. I'm Hunter Baumgardt. It's presented by Import Minded right here on Fox Sports 920.
Milwaukee takes the field in a matter of minutes. It's time to take a look at tonight's lineup on the Baseball Pregame Show, presented by Import Minded, your trusted choice for exceptional vehicle care on South 27th, just north of 894. Here's Hunter Baumgardt.
All right, let's get you the lineups one more time before we say goodbye for this evening. I'll be back tomorrow, 5:30 to 6:30 here on Fox Sports 920, getting you set for Brewers and Rays. Been a fantastic first show. Really appreciate everyone with the kind words, both on the stream. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and X, and on the talk and text line as well. Love answering your questions, and we'll continue to do so again tomorrow night and then Thursday night with Milwaukee Baseball tonight from 6 until 7. Follow me on social at Hunter B on air, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever your social media choice is, I am there. All right, for the Tampa Bay Rays, batting first and as the designated hitter, it's going to be Yandy Diaz. Batting second in right field, Ryan Valade. Batting third and at first base, Jonathan Aranda. Batting fourth, Junior Caminero, their third baseman. Batting fifth at second base, Ben Williamson. Batting sixth in center field, Johnny DeLuca. Batting seventh and behind the plate, Nick Fortes. Batting eighth in left field, Chandler Simpson. Batting ninth and at shortstop, Carson Williams. For the Milwaukee Brewers, batting first at second base, Bryce Terang. Batting second behind the plate, William Contreras. Batting third as the designated hitter, Christian Yelich. Batting fourth at third base, Luis Rengifo. Batting fifth at first base, Jake Bowers. Batting sixth in right field, Sal Frelick. Batting seventh in center field, Garrett Mitchell. Batting eighth at shortstop, David Hamilton. And batting ninth in left field, Brandon Lockridge. So for the Brewers, Terang, Contreras, Yelich, Rengifo, Bowers, Frelick, Mitchell, Hamilton, and Lockridge. Kyle Harrison on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers. In spring training, he had a 5.79 ERA. Let's not overreact to that, okay? Very excited to see what he can do. Very high ceiling. Chris Hook has talked very highly of him. He's got a four-seam fastball. That's his main pitch. Working on the new kick changeup as well. Working on that off-speed stuff to supplement the fastball. That is what is to watch for with Kyle Harrison, of course, acquired from Boston in the Caleb Durbin deal. This is what Murph had to say about Kyle Harrison before the game.
But what impresses me is that he's capable. He's done it before. He's very capable of getting right-handed hitters out as well as left. And his stuff is at times very good. Now he's got to learn to mature and become a major league starter. But this is the land of opportunity. You know, we give those young people the chance. We bet on those young people. We put them through the car wash, and you know, usually after Hokie and Henderson get their hands on them, that, you know, usually they come out better. So,
no doubt about that. We all know the reputation that Chris Hook and Jim Henderson have. Thanks again for listening here tonight on Fox Sports 920. Brewers and Rays at American Family Field. That's where I am headed. I'll bring you coverage on FSRWI on Twitter and FSR 920 or FSRWI 920 on Instagram, but also at Hunter B on air from the ballpark. So we'll give you post-game coverage there on social medias. And I'll be back tomorrow, 5:30, for another baseball pregame show presented by Import Minded, your trusted choice for exceptional vehicle care on South 27th, just north of 894. Thanks so much for listening here tonight. Brewers and Rays. Brewers trying to make it 4-0. This is the baseball pregame show on Fox Sports 920.